The music cut off mid-note when he reached for her hand and said, "Pretend to be my wife." And in a room full of witnesses, she had to decide whether to walk out or step into a lie she couldn't control. Glass chimed once, then went still. Lila felt every eye settle on her like dust on a shelf. Thread clung to her fingers. The hem she'd been fixing still hung loose from her sleeve. She should have turned around. Should have found the side door and the quiet road back to Dry Creek. Instead, she stayed. The man beside her didn't explain himself. He only shifted closer, enough that the space between them closed, enough that no one else could step in. Boots scraped. Someone cleared a throat. Across the room, a ledger snapped shut. Lila lifted her chin, not to belong, just not to be moved. His grip tightened, steady, not forcing. And for a second, she wondered which would cost more, leaving now, or staying long enough to make this real. If you were standing in her place, would you step forward or walk away? The road to Stone Ridge Ranch cut through dry earth and low brush, a pale ribbon under the late afternoon sun. Dust clung to Lila Mae Johnson's boots with every step. She shifted the strap of her satchel higher on her shoulder, careful not to crease the folded fabric inside. Mrs. Hargrove had said the order was urgent, paid in full upon delivery. That was enough reason to come. The ranch gates stood open. No guard, no dog, just the wide stretch of land rolling toward a house bigger than anything in Dry Creek. Lila hesitated a moment, then stepped through. She followed the sound of voices. Laughter carried on the wind, mixed with piano notes drifting out of the main house. It didn't sound like work. It sounded like a gathering. Inside, the air changed, cooler, smelled faintly of polished wood and tobacco. The room opened wide. Lanterns hung from beams, tables lined with glassware, men in pressed coats, women in dresses that caught the light when they moved. Lila stopped just past the doorway. A glass touched another somewhere to her left, then another. The sound softened one by one until it disappeared. Someone noticed her. She felt it before she saw it. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. A man near the fireplace paused mid-sentence, his smile fading like he'd forgotten the rest of his thought. Lila tightened her grip on the satchel. Her fingers found the edge of a needle still tucked into the seam of her sleeve. She slipped it free and tucked it back, out of sight. "I'm looking for Mrs. Hargrove," she said, voice steady enough to carry. No one answered. Instead, a woman stepped forward. Tall, composed, a string of pearls resting against a dress the color of dark wine. Her eyes moved over Lila once, from boots to hands to the hem of her dress. Evelyn Whitaker. "You're in the wrong place," she said, not unkindly, but not welcoming either. "This is a private gathering." "I was told to deliver an order," Lila replied. She lifted the satchel slightly. "Alterations. For the house." Evelyn's gaze lingered on the worn leather, then on the thread marks across Lila's fingers. "Not tonight," she said. "You can leave it with the staff out back." A few quiet chuckles followed that, low, careful, like people testing whether it was safe to laugh. Lila felt the heat rise in her chest, but kept her chin level. "I was told to bring it in myself." Evelyn smiled then. It didn't reach her eyes. "You were told wrong." Another woman leaned closer to whisper something. A man near the table set his glass down with a soft clink, watching. Lila shifted her weight. One step back, then another. She could still leave. Then Evelyn took a half step forward, her voice lowering just enough to sound polite. "I'll have someone show you out." That was when the voice came. "Leave her." It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It cut through the room like something solid dropped onto a table. The air changed again. People moved. Not much. just enough to make space. Lila turned. He stood near the far end of the room, just beyond the long table. Taller than the men around him, shoulders broad under a dark coat that didn't look new but fit like it had been made for him alone. His hands rested loosely at his sides, fingers still, like he didn't waste motion. Caleb Turner. She'd heard the name before. Everyone had. The man who built Stone Ridge from nothing but dry land and stubborn work. The man who didn't speak unless he meant it. He walked toward her, slow, measured, boots steady against the wood floor. No one spoke as he crossed the room. Evelyn straightened. "Caleb, this girl?" "I heard." He didn't look at her. His eyes were on Lila now. Dark, steady. Not unkind, but not soft either. He stopped in front of her. For a second, neither of them moved. Lila became aware of everything at once. The weight of the room, the silence pressing in, the faint smell of smoke on his coat, the way her own heartbeat seemed too loud. Then he reached for her hand. His grip was firm, warm, calloused. He turned slightly, just enough for the room to see. "She's my wife." The words landed heavy. No one laughed this time. Somewhere behind them, a chair scraped against the floor. Someone drew in a quiet breath. Glass met wood again, softer than before. Evelyn's expression shifted, just for a second. Not confusion, something sharper. "That's not possible," she said carefully. Caleb didn't answer her. His hand didn't leave Lila's. Lila felt every eye in the room on her, waiting, measuring, looking for the crack. She swallowed once, then let her fingers curl just slightly around his. He didn't look at her, but she felt it. The smallest change in his grip. Not tighter, just certain. The piano had stopped. Outside, the wind brushed against the open window, carrying dust across the yard. Inside, no one moved. And Lila understood something, standing there with his hand in hers. Whatever this was, there was no stepping back through that door. Caleb let the silence stretch a moment longer, just enough. Then he turned, guiding her with a light pull of his hand. "Excuse us," he said, not raising his voice. No one stopped him. The room parted again, quieter this time, not out of courtesy, out of something else. Lila didn't look back. They stepped into the hallway, the noise of the gathering fading behind thick wooden doors. The air felt different out here, cooler, still. Caleb didn't let go until they reached a narrow room at the end of the hall. He opened the door with one hand, stepped inside, then finally released her. The space was plain. A desk, a chair, a lantern set low, its flame steady, papers stacked in careful piles, nothing unnecessary. Lila stayed near the door. "What was that?" she asked. Her voice came out steady, but her fingers were still tight around the strap of her satchel. Caleb poured himself a cup of coffee from a metal pot resting on the side table. He didn't offer her one. "A solution," he said. She let out a short breath. "You don't know me?" "No." "Then why?" "Because you walked in at the right time." He took a sip, set the cup down. Lila studied him. Up close, he looked less like a story and more like a man who hadn't slept enough. A faint line cut across his brow. His hands were rough, not from show, but from work. "Try again," she said. He held her gaze this time. "My father signed an agreement before he died," he said. "Land access, water rights, bound to a marriage." Lila didn't move. "To Abigail Whitaker," he added. The name landed. She'd heard it before. Everyone had. The Whitakers owned half the water this side of the territory. "And if you don't?" she asked. I lose the creek. He said it like stating the weather. And without it, he continued, this ranch dries up within the year. The lantern flickered once. Lila shifted her weight. So you lie in front of 200 people? I tell the truth first, he said. Then they stop asking questions. She almost smiled at that. Almost. And me? She asked. Where do I fit in that plan? Caleb walked to the desk, pulled open a drawer, took out a folded document, and placed it flat. Marriage license, he said. Blank. Needs 2 names. Lila didn't step closer. You expect me to sign that? I expect nothing, he said. You can leave. He leaned back against the desk, arms loose at his sides. I won't follow you, he added. The room went quiet again. Only the low hum of wind outside, brushing against the boards. Lila looked at the paper, then at her hands. There were small cuts along her fingers. Thread marks. The kind that didn't show until you looked close. What do I get? She asked. Caleb didn't hesitate. 40,000. Paid in full when it's done. Her breath caught, just for a second. And a parcel of land, he continued. South of Dry Creek. Deed in your name. That made her look up. For my family? She asked. For whoever you choose. Lila walked closer now. Not to the paper. To him. And what do you get? She said. A year, he answered. Enough time to dissolve the contract tied to Whitaker. And after that, we go our separate ways. He said it clean, like cutting rope. Lila nodded slowly. No shared room, she said. No orders. Agreed. I decide how I move, what I say. Yes. If I walk away before the year ends? He paused, just a beat. Then you walk, he said. No threat, no promise, just fact. Lila let out a breath through her nose, turned slightly, glancing at the door behind her. She could still hear faint music from the other side. She thought of her brother, the rent due next month, the doctor in town who didn't wait for late payments anymore. Then she looked back at Caleb. You don't even know if I can act, she said. I don't need acting, he replied. I need you to stand there and not run. She held his gaze. Something in that answer settled in her chest. Not comfort, but something steady. She reached for the paper. Didn't sign yet. Just touched the edge of it. And if they ask how we met? She said. Caleb picked up the pen, turned it once between his fingers. We'll figure that out tomorrow. Lila nodded once. Then she took the pen from his hand. The scratch of ink on paper sounded louder than it should have. When she finished, she didn't look up right away, just set the pen down. Caleb folded the document carefully, placed it back in the drawer. Then he moved past her, opening the door again. The noise returned. Laughter, music, glass against glass. He paused at the threshold. You ready? He asked. Lila adjusted the strap on her satchel, smoothed the front of her dress with one hand. Then she stepped forward. I was ready when you said it, she said. Caleb gave the smallest nod, and together they walked back into the room where the lie was already waiting for them. Nothing had changed, and everything had. The music picked up again, but softer now, like it had learned its place. Conversations resumed in pieces, stitched together with careful glances. Lila felt them all, every look, every pause. Caleb didn't speak. He didn't need to. His hand found the small of her back, just enough pressure to guide her forward. Not tight, not claiming, just there. They stopped near the long table. Mr. Turner, a man said, stepping closer, hat already in hand. Didn't know you were married? You do now, Caleb replied. The man nodded, looked at Lila once, then twice, like he was trying to place her somewhere he couldn't. Well, congratulations. Others followed, one by one. Names passed between them like dry leaves. Lila didn't try to hold on to them. She just stood there, nodded when needed, kept her shoulders straight. Evelyn Whitaker didn't come near again, but she watched. Lila could feel that too. Later, when the last of the guests began drifting toward the doors, Caleb stepped away long enough to speak with a man near the fireplace. Lila stood alone for the first time since stepping back into the room. She let out a slow breath. The satchel still hung from her shoulder. She hadn't let go of it once. "Mrs. Turner?" The voice came from her left. Older, even, not unkind. Lila turned. Mrs. Hargrove stood there, hands folded at her waist. Her gray hair was pinned back tight, not a strand out of place. Her eyes moved over Lila once. Not quick, not slow. "You have something for me," she said. Lila blinked, then shifted the satchel forward. "Alterations. You sent word." "I did." Mrs. Hargrove took the folded fabric, inspected the stitching along the seam with a practiced thumb. "Well done," she said simply. Lila nodded. "Thank you." A beat passed. Then Mrs. Hargrove looked up again. "You'll want to come with me." "For what?" "To see your room." Lila hesitated. Caleb was still across the room, not looking at her, not checking. She turned back to Mrs. Hargrove. "All right," she said. The hallway felt longer this time, quieter. The sound of boots on wood followed them, echoing just enough to remind Lila where she was. They passed 2 doors, then 3. Mrs. Hargrove opened one without knocking. "This will do," she said. The room was larger than anything Lila had ever slept in. A bed with clean white sheets, a small washstand, a window facing the open land, where the last of the light stretched low across the fields. Lila stepped inside slowly. "This yours?" she asked. "It is now," Mrs. Hargrove replied. Lila set her satchel down on the chair near the wall. The leather creaked softly. "You don't seem surprised," she said. Mrs. Hargrove closed the door behind them. "I've worked in this house a long time. I've learned not to be surprised." She moved to the window, adjusted the curtain just slightly. "He doesn't make decisions like that without reason." Lila crossed her arms. "You know the reason?" "No," Mrs. Hargrove said. "But I'll find out." Lila almost smiled at that. Almost. "Dinner is at 6, the older woman continued. "You'll sit at the table beside him." "I don't know the table," Lila said. "You will." Mrs. Hargrove turned back to her. "And the staff will watch you," she added. "Not because they doubt him, because they don't know you." Lila met her gaze. "They'll learn." Another pause. Then Mrs. Hargrove gave a small nod. Not approval. Not yet. "We'll see," she said. When she left, the room felt too big again. Lila moved to the window, pushed it open a few inches. The air outside carried the smell of dust and something faintly sweet. Hay, maybe. Somewhere in the distance, a horse shifted. A gate creaked. She leaned her hands on the sill. A year. That was what she'd agreed to. She turned back to the room, eyes settling on the bed, the chair, the satchel. Nothing here belonged to her, not yet. A knock came, soft but certain. Lila straightened. "Come in," she said. Caleb stepped inside. He didn't close the door all the way. "Room all right?" he asked. "It's more than all right." He nodded once, silence again. Then Lila stepped closer. "You didn't tell them anything," she said. "No." "They're going to ask." "I know." She studied him, the way he stood. the way his hands rested, loose but ready. "You always this quiet?" she asked. "Most days." Lila let that sit. Then, quieter, "You always bring strangers into your house like this?" "No." That answer came faster. She caught it. Caleb seemed to realize it too. His jaw tightened, just a fraction. "Dinner's in an hour," he said. "We keep it simple. You answer what you want. Leave the rest." "And when I don't know the answer?" "Look at me," he said. She did. "I'll handle it," he added. Another pause. Then he stepped back toward the door. "Get some rest if you can," he said. "Caleb." He stopped. She hesitated just a moment. Then, "You trust me not to run?" "Yes." "Why?" He didn't turn around right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. "Because you didn't." Then he was gone. The door stayed half open. Lila stood there, listening to his footsteps fade down the hall. She moved to the chair, picked up her satchel, and set it carefully on the table instead. Her hands lingered there a second. Then she pulled them back. Outside, the sun dropped lower, dragging the last light with it. Inside, the room held its silence. And for the first time since stepping through that wrong door, Lila understood something else. This wasn't just a lie she had to live through. It was a place she had to learn how to stand in, without breaking. Morning came early at Stone Ridge. Lila woke before the sun cleared the hills. The room still felt unfamiliar, too wide, too quiet. She dressed in the same plain cotton dress, fingers moving by habit, stitching a loose seam near the cuff without thinking. By the time she stepped outside, the yard was already alive. Men moved between the barns, horses stamped in the corral. A wagon creaked past, loaded with feed. No one stopped when they saw her, but they looked. Not long, just enough. Lila walked across the yard, boots pressing into dry dirt. She found the ledger room by the back office, door half open, papers stacked unevenly inside. She didn't ask permission. She stepped in. Numbers didn't lie the way people did, not if you knew how to read them. By noon, she had a list. Wages recorded twice. Feed counted wrong. A shipment marked delivered that never reached the barn. She folded the paper once, slipped it into her pocket. Caleb found her near the well. "You've been busy," he said. She handed him the list. He read it without speaking. His jaw shifted once, tight. "Who keeps these records?" she asked. "Different hands," he said. "Too many." Lila nodded. "You're losing money." "I know." He didn't sound surprised. "Then why? Because I've been dealing with something else." She watched him fold the paper again, slower this time. "What else?" she asked. He didn't answer, not then. The rest of the day passed in pieces. Work, silence, glances that didn't last long enough to hold. By late afternoon, word spread. Town meeting. Everyone would be there. Lila stood near the edge of the crowd when they gathered by the old courthouse. Dust drifted across boots, hats tipped low against the sun. Caleb stood near the front. Silas Whitaker arrived last. He stepped down from his carriage like he owned the ground under it. Clean coat, polished boots, eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Turner," Silas said, voice carrying without effort. "I hear congratulations are in order." No one spoke. Caleb didn't move. Silas smiled thinly. "A wife and no one knew?" He turned slightly, letting his gaze sweep the crowd until it landed on Lila. "Strange," he added. Lila felt the weight of it, the way the crowd shifted just enough to make space between her and them. Caleb stepped forward. "That's enough," he said. Silas raised a hand, almost polite. I'm only asking what everyone else is thinking. He paused. Is it real? The question settled over the crowd, heavy, waiting. Caleb didn't answer. Not right away. Lila looked at him. Just 1 second. He stood there, still as stone, eyes forward, shoulders set. Not asking. Not stopping her. Just there. Lila stepped forward, boots quiet against the packed dirt. She stopped in front of him. Her hand reached up, caught the front of his shirt, pulled him down, and kissed him. The world didn't move. For a heartbeat, he didn't either. Then his hand came up, slow, like he was deciding something, and settled at the back of her neck. Not rough, not careful, just certain. He kissed her back. The wind moved through the crowd. Someone shifted. A chair scraped against wood behind them. But no one spoke. When Lila stepped back, her breath caught in her chest. She let go of his shirt. That enough? She said, not looking at Silas. Silas didn't answer. Not right away. Then he gave a small nod. Not approval, not belief, just acknowledgement. For now, he said. The crowd began to move again. Voices returned, low and uncertain. Caleb didn't reach for her this time. He just stood there. Lila turned and walked. She didn't stop until she reached the edge of the yard. Only then did her hands begin to shake. That wasn't part of the plan. She knew it. He knew it. Behind her, footsteps approached. Caleb stopped a few feet away. Neither of them spoke. The wind picked up, lifting dust between them. That was for them, she said finally. Her voice came out steady, but her hands didn't. Caleb watched her a moment longer, then nodded once. I know. He turned away first. That night, they didn't eat together, didn't speak. The house felt larger again, colder. Lila sat on the edge of her bed, boots still on, listening. Somewhere outside, a hammer struck wood. Once, twice, then again, she stood, crossed to the window, and looked out. Caleb worked by lantern light near the far fence line, each swing of the hammer steady, controlled. He didn't look toward the house, didn't slow down. Lila rested her hand against the glass, watched, then stepped back, pulled the curtain closed, and let the silence settle in again. Morning came slower this time. The house held on to the quiet, like it didn't want to let go of what had happened the day before. Lila moved through it without a sound. She poured coffee into a chipped tin cup, set another across the table, then didn't touch either. Caleb came in after sunrise. Dust on his boots, shirt sleeves rolled. He paused just inside the door when he saw the second cup. Didn't ask, didn't thank her. He sat, drank in silence. The clock ticked on the wall, one slow second at a time. Courts today, he said. Lila nodded. She had known. Everyone in Dry Creek had known. The Whitakers didn't wait. Neither did the law. They rode into town together, but not side by side. His horse a few steps ahead, hers following the same worn path, close enough to see the line of his shoulders, far enough not to speak. The courthouse stood low and square, sun baked into the wood. Inside it smelled like paper and dust. People filled the benches, hats in hands, eyes steady. Silas Whitaker sat near the front, calm as ever. Abigail beside him, gloved hands folded tight. Caleb didn't look at them. He took his place. Lila beside him, not touching. The lawyer spoke first, words smooth, practiced. He laid out the facts like tools on a table. The marriage happened suddenly. No record before the gathering. A clear advantage gained by the timing. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Lila listened, hands folded in her lap. When the judge turned to her, the room stilled again. "Mrs. Turner," he said, "is there anything you'd like to say?" She stood. The floor creaked under her boots. She didn't look at the crowd, didn't look at Silas. She looked straight ahead. "We started wrong," she said. The words didn't shake. They just sat there. She paused, then added, quieter this time, "We stayed on purpose." A murmur moved through the room. Not loud, just enough to be felt. The lawyer stepped forward again, ready to press. But Caleb spoke first. "Yes," he said. One word. Clear. No defense, no excuse, just truth. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. He didn't rush. He looked at them the way a man looks at weather, trying to decide if it will hold or break. "You live together?" he asked. "Yes," Caleb said. "You make decisions together?" A pause. Then Lila said, "We do." The judge nodded once. "And you understand what this means? If this court recognizes your marriage, it binds more than land." Neither of them answered right away. Then Caleb said, "We understand." Silence followed, long enough to matter. Then the judge gave his ruling. The marriage stands, legal, binding. The agreement with Whitaker holds no claim. The room shifted again. People moved. Voices returned. Silas didn't argue. He stood, straightened his coat, and walked out without looking back. Abigail followed. Lila exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Outside, the sun felt brighter than it should have. The crowd broke apart. Boots on dirt, wagons rolling. No one stopped them. No one spoke. Caleb walked ahead again, just like before. Back at the ranch, the house felt different, not warmer, just settled. Caleb went to the desk in the main room, opened a drawer, took out a small leather pouch. He set it on the table. The coins inside shifted with a soft weight. "What I promised," he said. He didn't look at her, didn't step closer, just left it there. Lila stood across from him. She didn't reach for it, didn't even glance down. Instead, she walked past the table, to the door. Her hand rested on the handle. She stood there a moment. Then she opened it. Warm air moved in. Dust. Sunlight. She stepped outside. One foot. Then the other. Caleb didn't move. Didn't call her back. Behind her, the door stayed open. Lila took a few steps into the yard. Stopped. The wind caught the edge of her dress. She looked out at the fields, the fence line he'd fixed in the night, the barn, the horses shifting in their stalls. All of it quiet. All of it real. She turned back, walked inside again. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Caleb was still where she'd left him, the pouch still on the table, untouched. Lila stepped closer. Not all the way, just enough. "Do you still need a wife?" she asked. Her voice didn't rise, didn't fall. It stayed steady. "Or do you want one?" Caleb didn't answer right away. He looked at her. Really looked this time. Then he shook his head. Just once. "I don't need anything anymore." The words didn't sound empty. They sounded decided. Silence filled the space between them. Lila held his gaze. Then she stepped closer, closed the distance. Not touching. Not yet. Just standing there. Caleb moved first this time. Not toward her, past her. He reached for the door, opened it, stepped aside. He didn't say a word. Lila looked at the open doorway, then back at him, and she walked through. Not leaving. Coming home. And maybe that was the quiet truth neither of them had words for. Out there, in a place where land could be taken with ink, and pride could be broken in a single room full of strangers, they had both stood their ground in different ways. Not by fighting louder, not by proving anything to anyone watching, but by staying when it would have been easier to walk. Caleb had built his life on distance. Strong hands, closed doors, a man people respected but never really knew. And Lila, she walked into a world that wasn't made for her. Not to be accepted, but to stand anyway. On her own terms, with her own voice. What they found wasn't something either of them planned. It wasn't in the contract. It wasn't in the lie. It was in the moments in between. The silence, the choice to remain, the refusal to let go when the truth would have been easier. Because sometimes love doesn't begin with trust. Sometimes it begins with a decision. And the kind of love that lasts is the one you choose, even when you no longer have to. So if you were standing where they stood, would you walk away with what you were promised, or stay for something you never expected? If this story stayed with you, there are more roads like this ahead, quiet, uncertain, and worth walking. You're always welcome to come along.